Hello guys, glad to be here because you might know it, but we were here last year for the whole week because we were moving from one office to the other, and you were so kind to host us in your offices, so we are actually sitting right next to each other. Maybe you didn't know, but we certainly noticed. So I'm here to introduce our product Roivenue and tell you how it can help your clients to achieve better efficiency in their online marketing, and also how we can cooperate in our partnership, because the idea, I guess, is that you should be able to use Roivenue in order to provide it to your clients or your new clients that you're going to have. We don't have much time, so I'll go right into the presentation, and today I'll also show you a live demo of the app, so you will see everything it can do for you and your clients. So recently I was listening to a podcast about World War I, and then there was one interesting fact. Maybe you all know that the war started with the assassination in Sarajevo, but the actual war started when Germany started to invade France. And then what happened was that there were 1 million German soldiers marching via Belgium to France, and France didn't even know it because they didn't have the tools or the technology to be able to see what's going on their enemy's territory. So there was 1 million soldiers marching. Imagine that, and they couldn't see that. And then not only because there was no radio, there was no telephone, there was no airplanes at that time. So really there was no way they could see what was happening right in their neighborhood. And this doesn't only apply to the macro level, but also on the level of each individual battles. You couldn't see what was hidden behind the first hill or the next hill. So you didn't know if on the other side of the battlefield there was one soldier or the whole army. So I told myself, like, how much more efficient could this army be if only they had the technology that we have today, or maybe they had 30 years later, and they could see actually what was going on behind the hill. And I find it a pretty good analogy to what's going on with pretty much all of the clients in the e-commerce sphere today, because like how much more efficient could they be if only they put together all the data that they need. I used to work as a business director in a digital agency, so I was working with our biggest e-commerce clients, and I always wanted to take them on the next level of optimization, on the next level of how they can work with digital marketing. And I wanted to go with them through these 4 steps, and seldom was I able to do it because primarily they didn't have the right data, or they weren't able to put the right data together. So today, what I'm going to show you is how, with using Roivenue, you can actually take your clients to the next level, and you can help them to make their marketing more efficient. But before we go to that, let me just show you some of our current clients. Roivenue, as such, is a 2-year-old product. So we started out 2 years ago. These are our current clients. At the moment, we are focusing on Czech market, and we are having talks with first clients in Slovakia, Austria, and Germany, and maybe Germany is the place where we can cooperate. So let's go into what our clients say about Roivenue. I think this is a pretty good testimonial that sums up what Roivenue can do for our clients and what it does. Thomas here is a marketing director who manages 13 e-commerce sites in 5 countries with the help of Roivenue, and he says that he looks forward to opening Roivenue every week because in 10 minutes he knows everything that his team or their agencies that they employ did right and what they did wrong, and he can gauge their performance by MIR or ROI or marketing profit. And then without Roivenue, no e-commerce business can ever be data-driven. And also what he adds is that working only with the data that Google Analytics provides you is not a very responsible thing to do. And now, why is he saying this, and then how can Roivenue transform this? So I'm going to show you a diagram of what we actually do in the realm of marketing or digital marketing. So what we do on the back end is that we integrate three very important data sources for digital marketing. It's customer behavior on the web. So we can integrate Google Analytics or any other web tracking tool that the client has. It doesn't matter for us. And B, we integrate all the ad platforms that there are on the market. So be it Facebook, be it AdWords, be it AskClick, Heureka, or whatever else, we can connect via an API to that, and we download the data to our server on a daily basis. So we know everything about the costs of that campaigns. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, what we do, and a lot of our competitors from a lot of other systems don't do, that is that we connect to the internal system of the client, being it an ERP, a CRM, OMS, whatever the client can possibly have. We will connect to it via an XML feed, and we will download, again on a daily or weekly basis, all the data about the customers and the transactions and the products that went in the transaction itself. So maybe now you're starting to see what are the benefits of this solution. Just to name a few, we can actually see canceled orders, which you usually don't see in Google Analytics. And of course, we can see the profits because we can subtract the cost of the products that the client had purchasing them. And so he can not only see revenue, but he can see profit in all of the dashboards that I'm going to be showing you. So first, I'm going to compare our solution to Google Analytics. I'm not doing it because I would be saying that we are better than Google Analytics or that we are a competition to Google Analytics, nothing like that. We are building upon or on top of Google Analytics, and we use Google Analytics as one of our data sources. But maybe most of you guys are using Google Analytics already, so it might be a sensible thing to start with. So let's see this example. It's a simple example of an e-commerce site that's selling cell phones. And as we all know, the margins on cell phones are not too high. Let's say it's 5%. So in order for this business to make some profits, they are also selling covers for those smartphones, and they have a lot better margin on the covers. And now, if you want to ask them, like, what's your average margin, or what should the MIR be, you are starting to run into trouble, because if you take an average of these two numbers, it doesn't make sense, right? And the situation gets more complicated than that, because maybe they sell other covers with different margin, and maybe they have tens of thousands of other products with different margins altogether. And then if you want to ask how much should MIR be, MIR being is the marketing investment ratio, so that's the amount you have to pay to acquire a new customer, or how big is your ROI on all of those purchases and transactions. It's not an easy question to answer if you are only using Google Analytics, or if you are connecting somehow the data from Google Analytics via some kind of spreadsheets together. So this is the first part where Roivenue can help by putting all the data together. Problem number two that a lot of clients run into is non-delivered and returned goods. Because again, what you see in Google Analytics is web conversions. So you think that the customer bought, but especially in Czech Republic, where we have a high ratio of people ordering and paying with cash on delivery, web conversions are not the same thing as the goods that was actually paid for, and I'm not even talking about the goods that was returned after 14 days or in the sphere of 14 days. So maybe you're seeing in Google Analytics some numbers of your revenue that are not quite accurate, that are higher than they actually are. And if it was only on the, let's say, average, if we were looking at the average, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you know that it's 5% on average, but it can differ a lot from different marketing platforms or different marketing campaigns. So you can find out maybe that you have one specific campaign, that is converting really, really well on the web, and it looks like it's a very profitable campaign at the end of the day. But for some reason, the people who were acquired through this campaign just don't pay on the delivery, and maybe 3 times as much as is your average. And you will never find out this if you don't connect the data. So you will run campaigns thinking how profitable they are, while actually they will be losing money at every single transaction. So the third problem that Google Analytics, at least the free version that a lot of clients has, is sampling. You probably know that if you have a lot of visits on your site and if you choose a big time frame, that Google Analytics don't show you the real numbers. They only show you their guess based on sample data, and it can go as low as in the screenshot to 2%. So they're guessing, or they're showing you the figures based on just a sample of 2%. I wanted an experiment to see how accurate it was, and I showed the data for the whole year, and I wrote down the numbers, the number of orders, the number of revenue, and then I went through each single month in that year, and I wrote it down again, and then I added all those numbers for the 12 months, and I ended up with a totally different number than I was seeing if I chose the whole year, and it was off by 20%. So you can't really believe Google Analytics free version in basic things like the number of conversions or stuff like that. So how we solve this is that we download the Google Analytics data to our servers on a weekly basis, and then we guarantee to our customers that all the computations run on our servers and on 100% of the data, so they can never be off. The second thing we do to improve the quality of the data is that we take the internal system as a primary one. So if there are orders that are missing in Google Analytics but can be found in the internal system, we will still show it to the client in our application. So even though he doesn't see the orders are not for some reason Google Analytics, we will show it to them, and then they can work with better numbers. And then the last problem with Google Analytics is that if you have websites in more than one country, or maybe you have more businesses in one country, there is no easy way in Google Analytics how you can see the results on a single screen. You have to switch from profile to profile to profile. So what we do is that we bring all the data into a single view so that you can access it more easily, or you can maybe compare the performance in different countries or different channels. So before I show you the actual application, let me sum up what is the thing that we actually do, or we're trying to do. We are here to help these guys, these marketing directors or other marketing people, maybe on the side of agencies. They can be account managers who are helping the client with their marketing in their never-ending task, because what they do on a daily basis is that they have some goals, then they have to specify marketing budget for it, then they execute campaigns, then they have to evaluate the whole thing, and then again redistribute the budget, and it's a never-ending cycle. And they, of course, the marketing directors are clever people, and they try to do their best, but still there is a lot of guessing, there is a lot of intuition in the whole process. So what we try to do is to help them be more data-driven, to be able to make their decisions based on data and not on feelings. And why we do it is because the marketing directors, they have a really tough job, because if only they want to evaluate the effectiveness of all the campaigns, they have to go to different systems. So maybe they have to go and see into AdWords, and they have to go to AdWords, and then they have to go to Facebook, and then they have to go to paper invoices that they have in the desk or somewhere, and they have to put it all together in a spreadsheet, and then they have to connect it with the data about their sales. So it's a dreadful long task, and there can be a lot of mistakes they can make. And so we're trying to help them with that. And even if they're successful at putting all the data together somehow in a spreadsheet, at the end of the day, they will find out that what they solved was only the last touch. It was only the contribution of the last click before the purchase. But what they're omitting is the contribution of all the players who were engaged in the goal or in the conversion that came to be. And no marketing director, however sophisticated he could be, can calculate the attribution models by himself in a spreadsheet, right? So he needs some kind of software for that anyway, and that's something we have in the application also, and I'm going to show it to you shortly. So to sum it up, with a quotation, as one American businessman said more than a century ago, he's totally positive that he's throwing half of his ad budget out of the window. The only problem is he doesn't know which half it is. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the 50% to maybe 30 or 20%. We're never going to get to 0 because then marketing wouldn't be fun anymore. But we're trying to reduce the number from, let's say, 50 to a small number. And let me show you how we do it. So I'll switch to the app itself. Okay. Right. So as I said, on the back end there is a pretty robust data warehouse that we pull all the data sources I was showing you in. And then there is the user interface, which is this. It's a web app, so no need to install and download anything. The client will only get a login. They can have as many logins as they want. They don't pay anything extra. You can have a login in that. Their agency can have a login in that also. There's no problem in that. The client has to decide that. So I will show you the main modules. We have a lot of modules here, but today I'm only going to be talking about the most important ones. And I'll start with Performance Monitor, which is this, and which is kind of the heart of the application, kind of the core of the whole app and of our philosophy. So what we did is, here is we divided the whole marketing process into consequent steps, right? So it starts with investment. Investments turns into impressions that you buy with your money. Impressions turn into clicks. Clicks then turn into visits on your site. Visits make conversions. And then there is the extra step I was talking about, the conversions that were really paid for and not returned, which is a totally different number. Then this generates revenue, and because we have the data about what was the cost of the goods the company bought it for, we can also show them the profit at the end of the day. What you're seeing now is this line is margin return on marketing investment. So if it says it was 18, it means 1 crown or 1 euro made you 18 crowns on profit at the end of the day. So it's the whole process from investment to profit. But what you can also do here, you can zoom in on every single part of the process. So let's say you're interested in seeing what's your conversion ratio on your website. So you will zoom in from visits to conversions, and the line changes to conversion ratio, and you can watch your conversion ratio. Maybe if you are interested in CTR, click-through rate of your ads, you will zoom from impressions to clicks, and what you see here is the CTR. Maybe you're interested in something else. Maybe you want to know what's the cost of acquisition for every single channel. So what you do is you will have a look from investment to conversions, and you can see that here the cost per conversion was 35 crowns, and maybe here it was 36 crowns, and here it was 53 crowns or something like that. So you can have a look at every single part of the marketing process, and what it allows you to is to tune and improve on every single part of the process, and at the end of the day make this whole process much more effective and with a better return on your clients' investments. Now we are, of course, looking for the data, for the overall data for the whole marketing. What we can also do is we can filter in. So now we are looking for the whole business in all the countries. Maybe you want to just see, maybe you just want to see how you're doing in Czech Republic. So you just zoom on Czech Republic. Or maybe you want to see how you're doing in all other countries but Czech Republic. So you can see the results here. What you can also do is have a look at just some channels. So maybe you want to go to the performance of AdWords separately. So you will have a look at AdWords, and you can combine the channels together also. What you can also do is to compare the channels next to each other. So first, I want to show you how you can compare the performance in different countries. So I will turn all the 5 countries on, and the metric we have here is cost per conversion, and you can see that this line is kind of crazy, and that is Poland for some reason. And you can see here that the cost per conversion in Poland is 973 crowns, while in, let's say, Czech Republic, it's 80 crowns. So you can be like, what the hell is going on in Poland? Why are our cost per conversion 10 times as much as in Czech Republic? So this allows you to very quickly detect situations that are out of hand, or metrics that are out of line, and you can maybe call to Poland or your Polish agency and tell the guys, like, guys, what you're doing with our PPC campaigns, it's crazy. And you don't have to go into AdWords itself. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to go to each individual system. You see everything in one place. So I'll just turn Poland off for a bit, because all right, we switched to a different demo. I'm only showing it to you on a demo data, and sometimes the demo data are showing something that doesn't make really sense, but would be a lot better on the real data, which I can't show you any data of our clients, of course. So this is the basic thing. This is performance monitor. It serves to the clients for having a very quick and fast and reliable overview of the whole marketing process, and they can focus on a whole bunch of metrics, and they can really be directing their marketing just from this one screen. The frequent question is, how can you drill down? So maybe you don't want to see AdWords, maybe you want to see every single campaign in AdWords by itself, or maybe you want to combine display campaigns from different platforms. So maybe you are running banner ads in AdWords, and then in AdForm, and then in DoubleClick, and I don't know where. And so what you can also do is something we call custom channel mapping, where you can, based on UTM parameters, you can combine your own custom channels, and then you will be able to see the metrics on your custom channels as well. Right, so this is the first part of the product, which is called Performance Monitor. And of course, with the comparison, I showed you how you can compare different countries. You can also, on one screen, be comparing different channels. So you can maybe compare the performance of AdWords and AskClick right next to each other. That's also possible. So secondly, after clients get a hold of this tool, and then they start to be really organized with their data, and they can pick individual metrics and try to improve them, and they can call up their agencies and then force them to improve. They will necessarily start putting a question to themselves, and the question is, what would happen if I increased the budget that I put in our marketing? What would happen if I invest 2 times as much or 10 times as much as I do today? How much revenue would it bring to me? Which is a very legitimate question, and it's a very frequent question. because like every day you're thinking about, if you're a marketing director, you're thinking about how much money should I put into AdWords. Maybe should it be 500,000 crowns? Should it be more? So this is how we are getting to my second point. Sorry, that's a Czech version. To my second point, that optimal level of investment can be found. You don't have to guess. You can find it with the good tools in your hand. How we approach this problem is we took an economic theory of diminishing marginal returns on your investment. And what it means is that there is a relationship between marketing investment and your return on that investment. And a lot of the times the clients would imagine that if they put 2 times as much money in, that they will get 2 times as much in return, which of course is nonsense, because then the function would be linear, and we all know it is not linear. The function goes like this. So first, if you're at the beginning of the curve, every single crown makes you a lot of money on return, but eventually at some point when your company grows really big and there's no more room for your investments, every single crown then makes you only a very tiny return on your investment, and there's no point in investing anymore. So that's the first big revelation clients see when they see this curve. And the second big revelation is that there is a profit curve that goes underneath the revenue curve, and that it dictates that if you want to go after profits, it's a different matter than if you want to go after maximizing your revenue or market share, right? So you kind of want to know what your strategy is, because if you want to maximize profits, you should have marketing investment maybe right here, and if you want to maximize revenue, you should be somewhere here. So let me show you some case studies we did with this. Were pretty cool. This is an example of one client who, as you can see, he had some profits, he had some revenue, he had some profits. Well, what he wanted to do was maximize his revenue. So he said, let's fix the profits around 0, so that we are not losing money, but we don't really need to make profits this year, but let's maximize revenue. And what happened was that we actually were able to grow the revenue by 40% in just 3 weeks. And also there was a 30% increase in the number of new customers. And it was only for the reason that we set the marketing investment level right here. And then the second case study is the exact opposite. This client said, I don't care about revenues this year, I want to maximize our profits. And what happened was that just in one single week, the revenue fell down by, I don't know, like 15% maybe, but his profits went up by 50%, which was quite remarkable. And it was only thanks to the theory, and that he had to be managing the spends or the budgets as he needed to. And the other benefit that's hidden in this theory is that it doesn't only apply to the whole business itself, it applies to individual channels as well. So if you want to answer the questions, how much should I invest in AdWords, or how much should I invest in display campaigns or something like that, you can do that too. Let me show you again how we do it in the app itself. Right. So where's my mouse? So the module here that we have here is called Budget Optimizer. And let me just switch to a different set of data. Okay, this looks better. So here you see the curves that we calculated for the client, and the green one is the revenue curve and the blue one is the profit curve. Here you see a picture of the whole business on the left, and then on the right you can see individual channels. So you can choose something that's called mystery channel. Doesn't have a name, but what you can then do is answer a question. Like here, you are investing 400 crowns, which the numbers don't really make sense, but let's say it's 400,000 crowns or something like that. And you want to answer the question, what would happen if I increased my budget, my spend, my weekly spend here? What would happen if I increased it to maybe 6,000 crowns? And what happens is that the app automatically calculates what revenue and profit would it bring. You can see the numbers are changing in real time. So what would it bring if you did this change, if you changed the number or the level of budget that you invest there? So you can kind of find the optimum for you. Maybe you're asking yourself, how do we calculate these curves? It's pretty simple actually. What we do is we take historical data of the client. So let's say we have data for maybe 20 weeks, and each week will generate a data point. So maybe he invested this amount and brought in this amount of money. So we have data point here, and then we have 20 data points, and we just fit the best line, the best curve possible into that data point. That will then allow them to answer those questions like, what would happen if I change the amount of budget that we put in? What's also nice about this feature is that you can identify the channels that are very much saturated. So let's say maybe with this channel you are somewhere here, and really adding any additional budget here doesn't make any sense. But then you will turn into a different channel and you will find that you're somewhere here and you have a lot of potential to grow, right? So what we do is you take some money from here and put it into that different channel. And what would happen is that with the same amount of budget, you can have better returns on that budget. So you can actually earn more money with the same budget, which is quite nice. Okay. So that's Budget Optimizer, and let's move on to point number 3, and that is switching from watching orders to watching customer value. Because what a lot of businesses do still today, I would say it's the total majority of them, is that their main KPI or their main thing they're walking around in their heads is number of conversions or number of transactions or the revenue we generate in a single month or week or something like that. Which is wrong, because what you're missing is the customer value that could be captured if only you focused more on customers and not single transactions. So let's see one example of one of our clients. What he did was, it's a case study about Black Friday, and what happened was that he was able to bring 5 times more revenue in the week that Black Friday was in than in a normal week that was during the rest of the year. So that was great on the first look. But what also happened is that his MIR increased. So while here he was paying 8% to get the acquisitions, 8% of the price of the transactions was lost in the marketing costs. It went up to 10 or even 13%, and maybe it was more than his margin was. So then the big question is, was it really worth it? They brought 5 times more revenue, but was it worth it at the end of the day? So how do you answer this question, right? What you need to do is stop focusing on single transactions and start focusing on customer value. So in this case, what you would probably do, you would take a cohort of these people that were acquired in these 2 weeks, or you can approach it from other way. You can maybe take all the people that were acquired through campaigns and they were connected to Black Friday. Whatever you want to do, you will take these 2 cohorts and you will wait maybe half a year or a year, and then you will have a look at their customer value and how much revenues they brought you maybe in a year, and compare it to customers that were acquired outside of that marketing activity. And then you can only answer the question if this was worth it. So you have to focus on cohorts, and you have to focus on customer segments as well. So I will quickly show you how we do that in the app. What we have here is something we call customer story. And what this allows you to do is to segment your customers in different segments. The approach we took is I would say simplified RFM analysis. If you're not familiar with that, doesn't matter for now. What it does is that it segments your customers into 5 different segments. So here you have first-time buyers, so that's the guys who only bought once from you. And then there are shoppers, we call it shoppers. There are guys who bought 2 to 3 times. And then here are customers that bought 4 or more times, and we still divide them also based on monetary value. So these guys left more than 5,000 crowns on profit to you. These guys left 500 to 5,000. These guys left less than 500. And of course, the numbers can be set up for every client differently, right? Doesn't really matter. So what this allows you is to focus on the metrics that are really important. And for most e-commerce businesses, maybe the number one most important metric that can change their whole business is this ratio. So it says how many of these first-time buyers are you able to convert into repeated customers, right? So this module allows you to focus on different sort of metrics and then take a different approach to the whole marketing process. Because it is one thing to tell your agency you can only use 10% of our of the revenue to acquire new customers, which is pretty standard thing to say to your agency today. But you can say, hey guys, let's focus on this, and let's come up with activities that will help us to increase this number. And that can really help you a lot. What we want to do, as I told you, the system is only 2 years old, so we're adding features all the time. And the next feature we want to add here in this module is we want to have also some sort of tool that will allow you to modulate or predict what would happen if you increase this ratio by, let's say, 2 percentage points or 3 percentage points. And it will recalculate the whole thing, and it will tell you if you increase this by 2 percentage points, then your earnings for the whole year will go up by, let's say, 10 million or 15 million or something like that. And then you can do, well, wait a minute, what if I increase this number instead by 10 percentage points? What would happen then? And it will recalculate it again. So you can find the spots where your energy would bring the best results, and you can really focus on what's important to the bottom line, and not what happens with acquired customers. And so this was just a quick thing to show you what, how we work with segments. I didn't even have time to go into cohorts. That's a different module. But let me just tell you what can watching segments and cohorts do for you. This is a testimonial of one of our clients, who is the CEO of Pepa.cz, which is the second biggest kind of group on site after Slevomat. And he says, Roivenue let me track 2 basic parameters, profitability and customer segments. The results, increase of ROI by incredible 630%. So I think that's quite good. So let's go to the last thing I want to show you today, and that is going beyond last click with data-driven attribution models. And that gets us back to our marketing director from the beginning of the presentation, who only by his own means can solve the problem of the last touch, but he wants to solve the problem of all the touches because all of the players that contributed are important in some way. So how do you do it, or what's the problem with the standard approach you have in Google Analytics? I don't know if you work with Google Analytics a lot, but what you see in Google Analytics free version is first click attribution model, last click attribution model, linear attribution model, and time decay attribution model. That's the only things you have in hand. And all of them are pretty problematic because they presuppose something. So the last click supposes that the last click is really important. And the last click, the last guy should get 100% of the credit for the transaction, right? The first click supposes that this guy should get 100% credit. And the linear model supposes that all the guys should get, if there were 4 guys, that all of them should get 25% of the credit. And it's just crazy because it's an assumption that's based on nothing. So you look out of the window and you would be better off than if you choose one of these models. So how do you overcome this problem? You have to use something that's called data-driven attribution modeling. And the difference is that data-driven attribution models, they don't suppose anything beforehand, right? So they try to calculate the contribution of each single player or marketing channel to the scores based on statistical computations. So I don't know if you're familiar with the attribution models or not. I'm not gonna draw any math here today. No time for that. Well, I will just explain to you very easily how do these data-driven attribution models work. We use 2 data-driven attribution models. One is called Shapley, the other is called Markov. The Shapley one is, by accident, also the one that Google Analytics Premium uses as well. So if you're using Google Analytics Premium with some of your clients, you should be able to access this data-driven attribution model as well. The problem only is that, as you all know, it's a costly solution to have. So Shapley, imagine that you go often to some kind of parties, and you go to these parties with a friend of yours. And every time you go to a party with the friend, the party turns out to be spectacular. And then one day, your friend gets sick and he couldn't go. So you go there without him and the party sucks. Right? And then in your head, you will start thinking, wow, this one guy is really important for the party to turn out well. But if you only go to maybe 10 parties a year, you can't really calculate it. It's just your hunch. But imagine that you would go to 10,000 parties or 100,000 of parties, and there would be all possible combinations of all your friends you have. If this happens, and that is what happens in online marketing, is that you can then easily calculate the marginal contribution of every single friend, or taken back to marketing, the marginal contribution of every single channel to the conversions that sprang out of that. So that's how data-driven attribution models work, and I will show you how we work with them. Here we have attribution analysis module, and what you see here is all the different channels that you are using in your online marketing, and here is the percentage that they contribute to. So it has to add up to 100% of your conversions. The variable we are watching here is conversions. We can also watch revenue, we can also watch profit, but let's stick with conversions. And I have to scroll down here to the legend. So the blue is last click, you can see in Google Analytics, first click, linear modules, all the modules that we talked about that are just garbage. And then you have the data-driven attribution models. Oops. So this is Shapley I was talking about, and we also have 2 different attribution models here as well. So let's see what happens. Let's have a look at ad form. For those of you who are not familiar, AdForm is an ad-serving platform that usually serves for serving display campaigns, and those display campaigns are often brand campaigns that stand at the beginning of the conversion path. So it's only reasonable that if you have a look at last click, which is the blue line, it tells you that according to last click module, he thinks that AdForm is responsible for 4% of all of your conversions. But if you look at first click, which thinks the first guy is really important, then he would tell you, no, I think it's responsible for 7% of all the conversions, which is a huge difference. It's almost, it's like 70% up, right? But the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, and these last three lines are data-driven attribution models that we compute. They tell you, no, the results are probably something like 6%. So you can here see the actual value that every single channel is bringing to the table, and not just guess with the basic attribution models that are Google Analytics, and they are often very wrong. And if you scroll down here, you can compare two different attribution models. So you can maybe compare last click with Shapley, let's say. And what this tells you is, if you maybe see in Google Analytics that implicitly everything you see in Google Analytics is last click. So if you see that they tell you that AdForm is responsible for 10 million crowns in revenue, you know you have to multiply it with this coefficient. So it actually is responsible for 15.2 million crowns in revenue. So you can adjust what Google Analytics is showing you with these simple coefficients. This is one way. What you can do. The other way is you can click here, apply module, and the whole application, everything in Roivenue, everything I was showing you so far, will switch to be computed based on this new attribution model that you choose, that you want to work with. So we'll be seeing more precise data. So that's all from the live app, and I just want to tell you some things to sum it up. So this is usual results from our clients that when they start using Roivenue, they can save up to 30% of their marketing investment, because they can identify the campaigns that are losing them money, and they can adjust them or they can turn them off altogether. I mean, they achieve 10 to 40% continuous growth of ROI. You saw that one client even said 600% growth. What also happened to one of our clients, that he was able to grow revenue of the whole business. He was able to increase the revenue twofold, by 100%, and it was an e-commerce business that already was in turnover in hundreds of millions of Czech crowns, and they were able in just 1 year to double their revenue while using Roivenue. And then also a big benefit is that evaluation and reporting is made really simple and fast. You don't have to connect the dots. The dots are already connected for you, and everything is on one single screen. However, if you find something that is missing in the app, maybe you want to have an idea how to explore some kind of custom thing, you can also, what you can do is you can take the data from Roivenue and you can export them to other BI tools such as Power BI, Good Data, Tableau, Excel, or if you can make SQL queries yourself, you can make the queries on our data with no problems at all. So who uses Roivenue? First, it's businesses with significant online investments. Usually the guys we are talking to are marketing department or the guys above them, maybe controlling or CEOs. Also, we have a lot of partnership with digital and media agencies and companies like yours. and also independent e-commerce consultants use the tool so they can help their clients improve. So this is who uses Roivenue. Then when to use Roivenue. It's in one of those cases, either you are spending more than £250,000 crowns in online marketing per month. If you're spending less, the improvements we can bring maybe won't justify the cost of the product. So we are aiming on bigger clients. And of course, the bigger the budget, the better is the improvement. So the bigger the client, the better. Or if you're facing any of the issues that I was talking to you today, so maybe you can't see your profit, or you have to question how much you invest in a channel, or you cannot work with your customer segments, or whatever we were covering today, that's when Roivenue comes quite handy. Now, why to use Roivenue if you are a client? So the main reason is, and it's an easy to set up out-of-the-box BI for marketing. So the whole implementation process takes just 5 man days on the side of the client. Only 2 of those is IT, so that's good. And the whole process takes maybe a month with back and forth. So you can have it running 1 month from now if you sign the deal. So it's significantly faster than implementing a general purpose BI solution. Second, you have all important data in one place, so you finally have marketing under control. And it significantly improves your ROI and business growth in general, as we covered. And then why you should use Roivenue, talking to ACTUM itself. These are the reasons. Number 1, you can position yourself as a strategic partner in the realm of marketing for your current clients, because out of the sudden you will be talking to them not about, let's say, IT solutions, and there's nothing wrong about IT solutions, but you will be talking to them about their whole budget, about their profits, about everything. So it will position you quite good. You can offer additional services to your current clients. So you can upsell your clients, sort of. You can gain new clients via Roivenue. Also, it can serve as a good conversation starter for you guys who are in new biz, maybe. And it can save time on development. So maybe you thought during our presentation today that some of your clients have some requirements that you are working on, but then you see we already solved it, and then